This is sick.
Damn it, Hunter. What are you getting us into?
If you don't confront your fears, you are always going to be afraid.
Trust me. How do we get down?
Every hour that passes, the weaker we get. Our water is in that bag.
Hunter!
If you're scared of dying, don't be afraid to live.
Welcome back. We begin on the edge of a huge cliff, following a trio of 20-something climbers. The tension rises when one of them, a man, dies. Fast forward 51 weeks and we meet Becky, who is the dead bloke's widow and is trying to cope with her loss, despite the fact that her father says it's been nearly a year and wants her to go on. Hunter, the widow's closest friend, then pays her a visit and convinces her to begin climbing. Working together to create a 2,000-foot structure is the best approach to gradually reintroduce a traumatized buddy to the sport. Hunter turns out to be one of those annoying TikTok vloggers who enjoys recording herself acting strangely in order to get likes and views. Regardless, they next make a 6-hour journey across the desert to try to locate the abandoned B67 TV tower. But for better or worse, their quest is fruitless. So they ask a random restaurant waitress where the 4th highest building in the US is located. She points out the window, revealing the enormous skyscraper they have been searching for all night, making them appear like complete idiots. It's right in front of their fucked faces. Becky has to charge her phone before they go over. Hunter then, predictably, employs some MacGyver-esque lifesaver she must have learned on YouTube and inserts the phone charger's prongs straight into a lamp bulb. The next morning, after a night filled with strange nightmares of her late husband, they set off. They continue driving in the direction of the tower. A nasty barrier stops them in their tracks, forcing them to walk the rest of the way. Though vultures seldom attack live objects, they circle overhead as they approach the tower, feasting on a half-dead cadaver. Hunter begins to take images on Instagram as the enormous skyscraper rises over them, as is customary. Becky had a complete breakdown when her uneducated and pompous buddy tells her about the tower's bizarre specifications and height. She has lost her marriage since her previous climbing experience, and all of her hopes and dreams for a better life have fallen apart. So, she promptly tells Hunter that she's totally having second thoughts and doesn't think she's going to climb that dodgy monstrosity today, especially on her first climb back since the accident last year. She admits to Hunter that she is having second thoughts, but her companion rejects her concerns, demanding that they continue after getting this far. Becky gives in under Hunter's unrelenting urging. They climb the old, rusted structure together, ignoring every groan and wobble. Becky is unconcerned even after one of the ladder's bars snaps off. A few irritating satellite dishes look to be in their path after they halted midway to take a small sip of water and then disregarded additional screws that kept coming off and falling straight past them. Instead of thinking to themselves, "Oh well, maybe we should just leave it here and call it a day," they push by them and up the last old ladder to the summit. They film themselves wildly dangling from the crumbling old structure with a drone and snap a lot of selfies. Becky scatters her departed lover's ashes at random after they finish playing up there. After comforting Hunter, who is unexpectedly sad at her friend's husband's death, they both decide to leave. But their comfort is fleeting. As they descend, the corroded ladder falls way beneath Becky's weight. Fortunately, Hunter drags her back to the top platform of the phobic tower. Their expressions of relief quickly change to worry and bewilderment when they discover they're stranded 2,000 feet in the air, with no phone coverage to even update their Facebook status. They see an emergency box with an antique flare pistol and a small set of binoculars after surveying their surroundings. But whomever packed it utterly forgot to include any food or drink, like a flask of water or a beautiful donut. They simply left, talking about donuts and leaving their bag of goodies next to the satellite dishes. They don't now have the first aid supplies, drinks, or solid food to treat Becky's damaged leg. They finally realize they have a phone signal back on the ground after taking a photo of the vulture strangely eating a live animal, and it gets a lot of likes on Instagram. Thus, an influencer with over 60,000 followers might send a message to her admirers to let them know that their stupid asses are completely stranded on a little platform 2,000 feet over a random desert. Naturally, they start to undress and put the phone into Hunter's shoe, padded with a sock and a push-up bra. Then Becky notices a peculiar tattoo on her partner's ankle that reads 143, which is the exact number her late spouse used to tell her he loved her. Before she can answer, "Yeah, something ain't quite right here," Hunter notices a dog walker below and tries to draw his attention by taking off more of her clothes and trying to knock him unconscious with her shoes. He does glimpse one of the aforementioned shoes, but he comically turns his head away and doesn't see the unfortunate, half-naked girls performing sultry stripteases miles above. He spends the night in an RV, and they attempt to catch his attention with the flare gun. He and his companion eventually spot them, but they don't understand the girls are stranded, so they rob them instead. These girls don't appear to be able to relax. Becky contacts Hunter about the tattoo once things have settled down for a little. Hunter confesses to having an affair with Becky's husband, which adds to the already tense situation. Hunter volunteers to try to get their bag of supplies from the satellite dishes immediately below, filled with regret and unwilling to be stuck in such an unpleasant circumstance. She absolutely does, but then she falls off the rope and seems dead. But strangely, she lands right on the supplies bag. After the tiny, scrawny woman somehow hauls her back up, they write an SOS note and stick it to the newly retrieved drone. But, like most of these awful things, the machine runs out of battery after 30 seconds of launch, leaving them with no alternative but to return it back. Later that night, Becky has a nightmare about being devoured, which turns out to be a horrible delusion since her leg wound is rapidly worsening. They get the wonderful idea of using Hunter's prior Mad Life hack first thing the next morning. They seek to charge their drone with the beacon atop the tower in order to avoid being hit by planes. Becky then begins charging the drone, using a wedding ring to transmit the power and some other imaginary technology. However, she must remain up there for several hours, holding on to the pole for dear life, while ravenous vultures circle menacingly and begin to attack her as they detect the smell of blood. They ultimately fly the drone back to the motel after she takes a brief break and complains about how much she misses her father and regrets being nasty to him the last time they spoke, only to be hit by a passing truck. Before she can respond, "What a waste of time," a violent storm comes. As a final option, Becky wants to try the phone in the shoe ruse again, but Hunter refuses to give her a shoe since the shoe is on her foot, and her foot, like the rest of her body, is completely down by the satellite dishes. It turns out that Becky has been seeing her husband-whoring pal for hours, which is a startling development that nobody could have predicted. Hunter perished when she fell off the rope. She did not survive the fall. Alone with her struggles and her thoughts of her pal, Becky has been thinking about them. Becky has regained her strength and is ready to make one more video message. Becky wakes up the next morning to a hearty raw breakfast with additional feathers and barely enough endurance to go down to the dishes after a brief cry and making a final goodbye video to give to her father. She then demonstrates her disgust for her unfaithful friend's corpse by inserting her phone into the last shoe and pressing it into her partner's rib cage before lowering her body from the tower. Just as the satellite dishes appear to be giving way, we switch to her father speeding down the highway and shortly meeting with his daughter, who appears to have been saved entirely off-screen. We close with a ridiculous voiceover about how we must all live our lives fearlessly. Tell me if you liked it, leave a comment if you have time,